and gentlemen, welcome to Black Army Radio episode, whatever this is. Listen, if you like our show, give us a like, give us a follow, send it to a friend, something like that. We really appreciate that. That helps us out a lot and kind of makes the investment we do here a little bit worth it. And so, I mean, we're going to do it anyway, but it'd be nice if we had that happen a little bit. And we have a pretty interesting episode, I think, coming up. But before we even do that, hey, Joel, what's happening? How we doing today, buddy?
Oh, not too bad. Another day in paradise. Feels more like summer, but same thing. And also with all our listeners, we get some comments on different platforms that me and Ty have, whether it's Instagram or Facebook. And normally, if you find us, you'll find Blackwater, Black Army Radio. But if you guys have something you want to talk about, right? Uh, if you guys have something you want to talk about, or you're getting tired of the war or something, put it out there. But give us something to talk about. Just don't throw a topic. We're down to interact and ask some questions and go back and forth, And also, try to listen to the whole podcast because it seems like the people who want to comment either agree with us or disagree with us, which I like. But I think part of this is um, if there was a Democrat in presidency right now and they were doing shit that me and Ty found offensive, we'd be talking just as much shit. Like we don't want this to seem like this is just what's happening now. This isn't fuck the right wing, fuck Trump. This is literally what's happening right now and pointing out the hypocrisies that um happen between both parties. And just for the listeners, if there's something that's edgy or immigration, something culturally, something you want to talk about, let's give us a topic, and we'll be willing to open it up on here and get different feedback and different opinions as well. So, but that's it really. Just want to know that
Yeah.
anyone who's listening, we're willing to debate and ask questions, answer questions, and we appreciate you that you're listening, even if we disagree as well too, because that's how we um, find some common ground.
And if you're one of those people that like really disagree with what we're saying, whether whatever, come on the show. Like, put a comment on there. Like, we'll let you on the show, dude. We'll debate you. We'll have conversations, like good natured, good hearted, like conversations about stuff. If you got some real beef with anything that we may or may not be saying or may not be bringing up or whatever, yeah, please, like we're an open book, man. Anybody, like, thank you, Sean U Daly, for coming on the show from the University of Montana Western from last week. That was he was our first guest and fantastic. And like I said, it takes 25 pages for that guy to even clear his throat. Like I said, dude is a wealth of knowledge. If you didn't listen to that one and you just want to hear some historical stuff kind of about the foundational principles of this country, that's a hell of a good episode to kind of start and listen to. But yeah, and we'll breach other shit too, man. Like, it's just right now, like, this is kind of the thing that's happening. This is a pretty big deal, like internationally, even domestically, obviously, with this Iran war thing and all the different stuff going on with it. So it's kind of like we kind of have to keep up on it and and report that stuff. And so we're going to keep doing that and then diving into other stuff periodically, as we go. And so hey, Joel, do you think it's weird, dude, that the freaking pilots, the pilot and the WSO, the weapon specialist officer, like, that they haven't released their names yet? They haven't, like, nowhere. They haven't released their pictures, their names, like fucking anything about them at all yet.
Yeah, I think it's super weird, especially we how they celebrated it. And then I have no problem with somebody celebrating a safe return of an American soldier or any soldier at that fact. I want people to live. But how they kind of turned them rescuing them into this like kind of propaganda stunt, and it seems like anything that they could do to give this better optics, they've been doing it. I do find it really weird that they haven't put the names out or anything else like that. So
Yeah, it's So I have, I'm really curious about it, and so we're gonna get into. Let me tell you some of the stuff we'll get into. We'll get in obviously to the Iranian U.S. fucking failure to make a deal in Pakistan, and how that's going and what that amounts to. The blockade of the Strait of Hormuz that Trump just put out. That China is basically already saying go fuck yourself, because China's like, they sent their own like destroyers and navy apparently to escort their own ships, which means that I really don't see us screwing with any Chinese vessels. um U.S. military members that are having a crisis of conscience. Like, this is the, like, never before in recorded U.S. history has there been this many service members like either retiring early, declining to reenlist, or in some cases just outright breaking their military contract, which could lead to a dishonorable discharge, which is the same thing that basically is being a felon when it comes to getting work. That tells you that's a pretty crazy thing. The Right now the UN's talking about millions and millions and millions of people going into poverty and immigration because of this war in Iran, which is obviously going to affect Europe and us. And the crisis in Lebanon and the ongoing crisis in Gaza, which the bodies are just piling and piling and piling up there. But here's the official. So the official reasoning for why the F-15 pilots, remember this was a two-seater F-15E, and it was during, they were shot down, and there's speculation going on that there was a secondary, actually a primary mission taking place, which was to take the uranium, and the secondary mission ended up being a CSAR, or combat search and rescue, for these F-15 pilots right after they got shot down. And so official reasoning, primarily due to operational security, or what we used to call in the military OPSEC. And, shout out to my old first sergeant Rothke, who used to be like, that's fucking OPSEC, bud. Those of you out there that might know that might get a kick out of that one. He was pretty interesting when he would talk about that. The need to protect the personnel and their families and the ongoing sensitive nature of the conflict. And there's really like 4 points to this, okay? One, hostile environment security. The incident occurred deep inside Iran, and releasing the name while hostilities are ongoing could make the pilots and their families targets for retaliation. Okay, that's one of the things they're saying. Two, protection of rescue operations. During the search, Iran urged civilians to help locate the pilots, and a bounty was reported for their capture. An early leak about the second pilot's status made the rescue operation much more difficult. Quotes. Okay, 3, medical and psychological privacy. Now, this is the one that actually makes the most amount of sense for why they would be withholding the names. Like, I really think that all this other shit is just jive. And really, all they need to do is just say this. Like, this is really all they need to say. Okay. Medical and psychological privacy. Following high stress combat, rescue, and evasion, crew members often undergo medical evaluation and debriefing, with a media blackout often requested until they are fully assessed and cleared. Okay. That actually makes sense. 4, preventing propaganda. Withholding names prevents enemy forces from using them for public propaganda, such as showcasing the captured soldiers. That's obviously not something we need to worry about. They weren't fucking captured. So that's kind of actually irrelevant. I don't even know why that. Anyway, really, outside of point 3, it's really all bullshit. It's all bullshit based on my experience, too. I mean, releasing the names. So we just had Operation Absolute Resolve, right? Absolute Resolve in Venezuela. We went down there. We sent CAG down there. They did their super duper CAG shit. They got Maduro out. They got out, like, experienced very, very little casualties, like no deaths. And then that was it. Well, Chief Warrant Officer 5, Eric Slover, got the Medal of Honor in that mission. And it did not take the White House long to basically give him the Medal of Honor after the mission. It was probably the quickest Medal of Honor that's, I would imagine, that I know of, that's like ever happened. And so anyway, like, think about Venezuela is in the Americas. It's in the American continent, right? And so it's like, it's all connected. And so there's a lot of cartels. So remember they were hitting all those Venezuelan boats, and they're like, they're all drug boats, they're all cartels, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, really, if they were trying to get the drugs, they would have been hitting the Mexican cartels and the Mexican drug boats and stuff. But it's like, so you got all these cartels and all these massive drug figures and these drug lords that are all down there in Mexico and South America. And you literally put this guy on national television. You said his name, his rank. You even said what he was flying, which was a 47 Chinook. And you said that he was in the 160th Special Operation Aviation Regiment, SOAR, which is literally the best pilots on planet Earth are in SOAR. And they released all of this information almost immediately after the operation, right? And gave him the Medal of Honor. And you're going to tell me that with all of that, Eric Stover, Chief Warrant Officer 5, Medal of Honor, Operation Absolute Resolve, flew a 47 Chinook with the 160th Special Operation Air Regiment flying CAG. And they release all of that information. And apparently they're not worried about his life at all. With some cartel member or some of the cartel people, or maybe pissed off Venezuelan people that might have contacts in the United States, Joel, it doesn't seem like they're really that worried about his fucking life. And it's a hell of a lot closer and more dangerous than where Iran is right now. I mean, if Iran was a danger, like I said, we would be receiving intercontinental ballistic missiles all over the United States, and we're not. Does that seem weird to you, man?
Well, yeah, and it makes you wonder if they're a lot more injured than we thought they were, you know? Like, um, there's reports that there's some sort of technology that the CIA uses to essentially like detect if your heart's beating or not. And there's reports that that's how we found the weapons tech, you know? So that's saying essentially that that dude was laying somewhere and couldn't do anything himself, you know? And so, um, you know, bunch of speculation. I think a shitty scenario that they are not as in good a shape as we thought they were, and there's speculative report on that because they're in wheelchairs or something, and the optics will look bad. But and it makes sense for like the giving somebody time to recover, and I won't be sad if we're proven wrong on this one. And in 3 weeks they come out and they get the Medal of Honor and whatever else, and they're okay, you know. Like, but at the same time, I do find it really suspicious.
Yeah. It's suspicious, and I agree with you. Like, that's what I said about point number 3, right? The medical and psychological privacy point. That is, after a massive survival, search, evasion, rescue, escape situation like that, like these guys could be horribly, especially the WSO, right? That was on the run for basically 24 hours while getting hunted. If that's the case. Also, what could have happened is this entire thing could be built on complete bullshit because we were right at the first time when we said that this was a uranium grab that just went horribly, horribly wrong. And they tried to come up with some kind of a story to cover how bad that op really, really was. Because I still don't know how in the hell we got all those hundreds and hundreds of special operations dude out of there in a massive gunfight, like while trying to find an F-15 pilot that the entire goddamn country of Iran's looking for him. And we have hundreds of special operations dudes 200 plus miles into Iran. And like,
Right.
I guess they're not there anymore. Hopefully it seems it's really strange to me because they put together the Medal of Honor package for CW5 Slover really fast. I mean, real fast. They got him out, and his is the thing too, bro. He was shot the fuck up bad. He was shot up bad. So these guys, this F-15 guys, unless they're worse, I mean, because this Slover guy, he took a whole bunch of rounds in his legs and his hip, like heavy caliber rounds. You know what I mean? Like 308 rounds, like through his legs, like all through the bottom of his 47, and he was substantially injured in that deal. And it's like he was. I don't even think. I think he would. I think they had to wheel his ass in a wheelchair for the Medal of Honor, and he like ended up standing up. But I don't know. He got shot up really bad too. So I don't know. It's interesting to me. It's a weird caveat. I'm kind of waiting for those guys to come out because, like I said, I really believe personally, and I don't know how we could ever prove this unless talking to one of the guys that were there. I really believe this was the op for uranium. I really do. That's why I think the entire trajectory of the war changed with this op, right? All of a sudden there's a ceasefire, there's these negotiations, There's all this stuff going on. Like, I really think that was Trump's get out of jail free card, was sending in a whole bunch of special operations dudes to get that uranium, and it didn't fucking work at all. Like, not even close. You know what I mean? And it's a big black eye for not just the administration, but for the United States of America and for the U.S. military too, quite frankly. And so I don't know. I'm kind of leaning towards that, but I mean, we'll see what happens. It wouldn't be hard for them to put together some people and some stories either. You know, it's like, what's even worth believing anymore these days? It's so hard these days to believe anything.
Well, and I think it's hard too with just with some of the reports coming out about the numbers, and it sounds like a lot of the numbers we're getting aren't right, and there's been other like major news outlets questioning the numbers as well. And we were talking about that, um, 3 or 4 weeks ago. So the speculation, it's just hard not to speculate with this cabinet because one thing happens and you see another, and I just, yeah, I don't understand how more people don't see it, I guess.
Yeah. I think people with a lot of experience kind of see it. I've been thinking that way for a while, that they've classified the numbers, but I don't know. That's yet to be determined, or if it's ever determined. There's also reports. I read some stuff today that there are some families out there that have been reaching out to various media outlets, families of military members that were stationed in like the UAE, in that area down there, and that would usually get phone calls from their guys, like their sons or whatever, like once or at least like once a week, once every couple weeks or something, and even at the beginning of the war, and they're starting to say that they haven't heard anything from from their boys in like a couple weeks and stuff, like at all, even like an email, like
Right.
nothing. And they're starting to get kind of worried because they're like, did they get fucking killed? Like, do we just not know it? Are they not reporting? They're not telling us? Like, I get, and apparently there's quite a few people like this. I mean, being a guy who deployed a lot and saw a lot of that stuff, I mean, a couple weeks, I mean, shit, on my first deployment, which I honestly think was also my kind of like most what I thought the military was going to be kind of deployment, was in 2003 in Afghanistan. And I mean, I went like, a month and a half, I think, before I even used a satellite phone to call my
Yeah.
parents. You know what I mean? Like, we were so deep in the mountains for so long that it's like just became caveman up there almost. And we were right up on the Afghan Pakistan border doing like stuff up there, and shit, we had no contact with the outside world, like at all. I remember coming back
Uh,
from that one and just almost being pretty freaked out about it, coming back to the real world. Yeah, go ahead.
I wonder if it's pushed on through like for security reasons, because just with Starlink, like people could get internet, they could get all that stuff anywhere, and it makes more sense in 2003. It makes less sense now unless it's something pushed on by like the military leaders for air quotes like security reasons or and also with that being said, like they've had a bunch of people who they feel are leaking stuff and information. So it just makes me curious if they're like locking down communication down there because of that. And with all the
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure they are. I'm sure they're locking down comms. Like, there's going to be some big OPSEC stuff going on down there, operational security stuff for sure. So that's hit or miss. But I do think, dude, like, if I had to put my money on it, I would tell you that they're classifying the numbers. I mean, I would think that if I had to pick one way
yeah,
or the other, I would think that they're classifying the numbers based on all the stuff we've been reporting for the last month. And so, all right, man, like, UN Iran talks in Pakistan failed to produce a deal. Okay. Negotiations in Islamabad, Pakistan, attended by Vice President J.D. Vance and primary envoy lead negotiators Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. They went for 21 hours from Saturday to Sunday. When J.D. Vance emerged from the negotiations on Sunday and gave a press conference, he said that the United States has presented Iran with its final and best offer, quotes, final and best offer, framing the impasse specifically around nuclear technology. and nuclear enrichment. That seems to be the big impasse. Remember last episode we gave Iran's 10 talking points, and the US had like 8, or not talking points, but bargaining points, and the US had 8, and they weren't like marrying up at all. Like the nuclear enrichment,
Yeah, no
US
surprise.
bases in the Middle East, $2 billion in reparations. What else? Oh yeah, ballistic missiles. Um, shit, I don't have it written out in front of me right now, but it was like everything, dude. They weren't. I was like, they're not going to agree to any of this shit. And then like no nuclear enrichment at all. And this new administration is the same as the old administration in Iran, except it's more. It's more of what everybody is worried about, right? Now you have the younger generation kind of taking over for the older generation, which quite frankly was a little bit laid back in their nuclear ambitions and way more willing to negotiate, it seems like. Even though Israel and the United States was absolutely not willing to negotiate with Iran with this, they wanted to war. But these new, like the new younger generation, they're gonna seems like they're gonna be way, way, way less likely. And so I'm gonna go ahead and play that JD Vance. I got a JD Vance clip, pretty much for everything he just said. And so I'm gonna play that sucker right now.
We've been at it now for 21 hours, and we've had a number of substantive discussions with the Iranians. That's the good news. The bad news is that we have not reached an agreement. And I think that's bad news for Iran, much more than it's bad news for the United States of America. So we go back to the United States having not come to an agreement. We've made very clear what our red lines are, what things we're willing to accommodate them on, and what things we're not willing to accommodate them on. And we've made that as clear as we possibly could. And they have chosen not to accept our terms.
They've chosen not to accept our terms. I'm surprised they were even there, bro. You know why they were there? China. China's why Iran was there. China fucking asked Iran to show up to this shit. That's it. That's all.
Oh, some of this, like as far as terms and things that we're willing to accept and not accept. And so just going back to 2018, Trump has always been, or Trump's first candidacy. Trump has always been anti-Iran having nuclear weapons. And before, it was never so caught up on things like enrichment. And when you hear enrichment, you think, oh, that means uranium's ready to turn into a nuke. There's a bunch more steps after that as well. And it's not weird for a country to have enriched uranium as long as they're
Just for regular
disclosing that.
energy.
No, that's what I'm saying. And especially as long as they use it for um like they disclose that they have it, and that's where all these checks and balances that Israel does not do with all these nuclear associations in the world, that Iran has been doing these things. And Joe Kent um was kind of talking about some of that and why trying to make it so a country, especially a country that has an army like Iran, this isn't a little country. They have 95 million people and they have a legit army. And this isn't working with Israel, who has, yeah, I don't. Anyways, this is what Joe Kent said, and he says, it appears that the zero enrichment poison pill has killed Islamabad negotiations yesterday. We have 9 more days in the ceasefire to fix this, but we must pursue our goals, not Israel's. Trump's red line has always been no nuclear weapons for Iran, not zero enrichment. Iran agrees with this and has not sought to develop or obtain a nuke since 2003. And with him saying that, every sort of check that has been done, I mean, this has been argued at courts and NATO, UN, it all has been checked that they have not been trying to develop a nuclear weapon. And that's something that
Correct.
Israel has not gone. That's something Israel has not gone through with. Back to his
Yeah.
quote. It was sought to develop a nuke since 2003, but needs to be retain the ability to enrich for it needs to attain the ability to enrich for not the Saddam Gaddafi policy to work. And that must be some policy that I'm not sure what he's referencing. But it goes, this negotiation between the US and Iran is workable as a dispute on levels of enrichment and monitoring. This threat to Israel is getting us to this is a threat to Israel, getting us to do the heavy lifting in a regime change and decapitation war that they want. Israel needs us to be chasing every trace of uranium in Iran because that ensures we stay engaged militarily in Iran. Because how do you ever fully make sure Iran can't enrich without taking out a regime? This is a recipe for an endless bloody war, or supporting and turning a blind eye to Israel using a weapon of mass destruction in Iran. Restrain Israel, get a deal, open up the Strait of Hormuz, and focus on saving our republic, not playing empire. And I really think that the end of that is just brings, I mean, one, there was a deal, whether the deal could have been better or not, but that really rings true, like this is all happening because we can't keep Israel on the leash. And a lot of that goes to our negotiators' ties to that region. And I think Ty's going to go into some of our negotiators and their qualifications to actually be a diplomat to end a war. And I think that's pretty
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, correct, man. Like, come to find out, being the lead negotiator of a massive geopolitical international relations clusterfuck is pretty important. It's pretty important what your background is and what your history is and what your previous accomplishments might have been, like gearing you, thrusting you towards that position, right? So before we go into Jared Kushner and Steve Wilcox's background on how they're fucking not at all qualified for this. Well, yeah, I
It's
always say that
Witkoff.
Witkoff. Before we go into those guys' backgrounds, like, what does it take to be the lead negotiator in an international war? Okay, well, it requires a specialized combination of high-level academic training, decades of practical diplomatic experience, and exceptional personal attributes. Typically, these individuals, not just mediators, but high-ranking government officials, career diplomats, and very, very respected international figures. Mostly, these people will hold some kind of a master's degree or a doctorate in international relations, international law, peace and conflict studies, or even just public policy. Specialized training that can be associated with that, added on to that, are programs like Columbia University or Harvard program on negotiation. They have actual courses specifically geared towards negotiations and these kinds of outcomes. Okay. Also, language skills. Most of these humans that do this kind of shit for a living can speak English, French, Arabic, Pashtun, Russian. They're bilingual. They can speak a whole bunch of language. They can relate to the cultures because of that. It's a critical element actually for communicating to diverse parties. You get a lot of insight into people's cultures and societies and backgrounds and histories when you investigate their language and who they actually are. You basically have to have earned this role through a lifetime, literally a lifetime of high stakes, quote, high stakes experience. You got to have cultural intelligence, the ability to navigate different values, political beliefs, and communication styles with extreme sensitivity. Strategic thinking. They must be able to anticipate the other side's moves and identify creative win-win solutions that allow all parties to save face. Win-win solutions. We're definitely missing that. Stamina and emotional intelligence. Peace talks can last years and involve long and grueling hours of negotiation. Negotiators must remain calm, patient, and persistent, even through all the failures that they're inevitably going to face. Reputation and status. They often need a personal reputation of high integrity and a high position into the hierarchy to be taken seriously by top level leaders. Those are your basic attributes for people that specialize in international war negotiations. It's pretty standard. It's pretty common throughout history, at least in the United States in the last 100 years. This has been the standard. Okay. Okay. Do you want to start with Jared Kushner, bro, or Steve Witkoff? Does it matter to you?
Let's do Kushner. Actually, let's do Steve Witkoff. I think he's a little more qualified because he has his background as far as education is he has a degree in he has a bachelor's in arts in political science from Hofstra, and then a Juris Doctor from Hofstra Law School. So he does have a little bit more of a palette to maybe do some of this work,
Domestic law.
but
I would assume it's
yeah,
domestic law.
domestic law, not international law, correct.
So that's his education. It's not bad. So he's most well known as being a real estate billionaire, right? A real estate investor. And his status as being a really, really, really close long-term confidant of Donald Trump. Like, he's been close with President Trump for a really long time, apparently. Trump actually has stated saying that he is a world-class deal maker, quote, world-class deal maker. But many foreign policy experts and diplomats have raised very serious concerns of his lack of any formal diplomatic training or any diplomatic experience. His business success. Okay, here's a little bit more about his background. He's the founder of the Witkoff Group, which was a highly successful real estate investment group, and he was also an attorney. High stake negotiations in property, primarily. All of his negotiations that he's known for are property, real estate, real property negotiations. But the administration believe that translates directly to geopolitical diplomacy. This is a quote. They think that his high stakes property negotiations are a direct translation to geopolitical diplomacy. Like I said, he's been a friend of President Trump for 40 years. This personal relationship gives him direct, unfiltered access to the president, making him a very, very, very powerful, like, quote, de facto envoy that speaks with Trump and probably weighs pretty heavy in his ear. Literally his only diplomatic record is what he's doing right now. That's it. Like, that's the history of his diplomatic record. What he's doing fucking right now to try to keep our asses out of World War III and try to keep our kids from fucking spilling blood and getting their blood spilled in another gigantic world war. Conflicts of interest. So their reports have highlighted potential conflicts of interest is due to his and his family's extensive business ties with Middle Eastern sovereign wealth funds, while he is simultaneously conducting government negotiations in the very region while he has these business ties with Middle Eastern sovereign wealth funds. And so there's going to be more of that with Kushner. But is there anything you want to add to old Steve Witkoff, bro, before we move on to Kushner? To Kush?
Not really. I mean, I think it's funny that we have two real estate guys who have interests and real estate in the Middle East negotiating this war, and we expect Iran to think that we don't have our own interests in mind, you know? Like,
Right.
that's a pretty interesting thing.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting thing. I feel like I'm gonna have to, after I talk about Witkoff's background and Kushner's background, I think I'm gonna have to like go over what the actual job qualifications are, like the literal job qualifications for this fucking job. All right, Jared Kushner.
If we're gonna move on to Kushner real quick, I'll give his education and why he would be qualified for such a thing as a diplomat for the United States. And Jared Kushner also holds a bachelor's in art in government from Harvard University, and that's a bachelor's in art. That's the same. I have a bachelor's in science, a 4-year degree. It's a pretty basic degree as well. And
Hey, you're qualified, Joel. You're qualified. Yeah.
He does have a master's in business administration in an MBA, and
Mhm.
and then all his other ties are in real estate. Trump also bailed out his dad in his or not bailed out his dad, pardoned his dad in his first administration too, due to campaign fraud that he was found guilty for and pardoned.
Right? Man, go figure. And so he did go to Harvard, but you know what he didn't do while he was at Harvard? He did not study Harvard's program on negotiation, which is interesting to me because he was fucking there. Might want to pluck somebody from that program. So he is the son of real estate developer and mogul Charles Kushner. And apparently Jared Kushner's grandparents were Holocaust survivors who immigrated from Belarus to the United States in 1949. So his grandparents were he is Jewish. He is of the Jewish faith, and his grandparents had survived the Holocaust. You had his education there. He married Ivanka Trump, old Donnie's daughter, in 2009. They have 3 children, and they are all observant, modern, Orthodox Jewish as their faith. And at 25, he took over the management of Kushner Companies after his father was in prison for tax evasion and witness tampering in 2005, what you were talking about, bud. He expanded the business significantly, famously purchasing the 666 Fifth Avenue Tower for a record-breaking $1.8 billion in 2007. Is it weird that the address is 666 Fifth Avenue?
Yeah,
Wait, I just noticed that, bro. Like all
it's
this
kind of
stuff with
creepy.
Ball and everything else going on that Iran puts out, right, with Trump and all this shit. And it's just like, it seems weird. I don't know. Maybe it's just there's a lot of coincidences in this life, Joel. That's what we're finding out.
Yeah.
Finding out there's a lot of coincidences. In 2006, he purchased the New York Observer for $10 million. So Homeboy was doing good financially. At 25, this motherfucker at 25 years old, after taking over his pop's business, freaking bought that place at 666 Fifth Avenue for $1.8 billion, dude, in 2007. He's 25 freaking years old. Not that it was even
And
really his money, probably.
some of that too. So let's talk about that because that's how some of his first ties to the Middle East and Kushner go to that 66 Fifth Avenue bailout or building that he had to get bailed out by Qatar. And essentially he was in a debt crisis. So he faced a $1.4 billion mortgage payment that he didn't have money to pay for. So Qatar essentially it's a Brookfield Asset Management out of Qatar provided a $1.1 billion upfront payment on a 99-year lease to that building. So essentially, Qatar loaned him $1.1 billion. And just some of the, do you want to go into the other Middle Eastern ties now or wait until later?
I mean, you might as well, yeah, because I have a few more things on them, but you can totally go into it because it'll just all tie in.
And this is just some business deals that his associates, companies he owns parts of, that are in this region. You have Phoenix Financial, Affinity Partners in a major shareholder group in Phoenix Financial. Affinity Financials is Kushner's financial firm and is one of Israel's. So Phoenix Financial is one of Israel's largest insurance and asset manager groups in 2025. Kushner receives regulatory approval to nearly double his take by 10%. Um, the Shalom Group, Kushner invested roughly $150 million for a stake in the auto service division of the Shalom Group. This deal was noted for its complexity and as the parent company to owns Israel's shipyards and primary contractor for Israel's Navy. Um, Kushner's investment goal was stated these deals are intended to create an investment corridor between Saudi Arabia and Israel. So building the regional ties established by the Abraham Accords, essentially. So that region being controlled by Israel is crucial to all of Kushner's money ties in Israel. And it's like I said, this goes back to how could Iran think that they have their best interest or any interest in negotiating with people like that who are holding all these ties and have no business. They're Trump cronies who are now negotiating a fucking what's turning into a world war.
Yeah. And then even before that, like his negotiations, like he did have dealings with Benjamin Netanyahu just in Gaza. You know what I mean? Before the Iran war even kicked off. Did you talk about like the expansion of the Gaza like real estate project and like all that stuff Trump talks about? It's the most beautiful oceanfront property in fucking earth. We just need to develop it and all that stuff. I mean, he was involved in those negotiations, or you can call them negotiations. I mean, just a lot of killing. But yeah, he's pretty serious into that country.
Well, I think that's part of the reason Iran wanted JD Vance there because one, I think there's a good chance JD Vance could get pushed to run for next if Trump doesn't want to run in 2028. There's a good chance it's going to be JD Vance, and I think he's kind of trying to distance himself and him being. I think Iran knows that his best interest is to be the negotiator that helped end this war because it's only going to look good for him. So I think Iran was thinking at least we'll have somebody who might actually want to end this war because it benefits his best interest to run in 2028 and not be ganged up by two guys who obviously just have Israel's best interest, you know?
Yeah, clearly and obviously do, right? And so he served in Trump's first term. He was as a senior advisor to the president. Okay. And I'm not going to go into what a senior advisor's background needs to be qualified to be a senior advisor. I really doubt he had that fucking background either, but whatever. And then obviously his current role as a special envoy, focusing on high stakes negotiations such as the Russia-Ukraine war and conflicts in the Middle East. So he's doing the Russia-Ukraine one too, bro, or was trying to before. I mean, this is amazing to me, man.
And I'm pretty sure Witkoff had a lot more ties to Russia, and Witkoff was also part of the Ukraine negotiating as well. So interesting side note.
They're literally so like one of the failures that they talk about here, like recent negotiating failures, says in the weeks leading to the Iran war, Kushner and Witkoff failed to reach a nuclear deal with Tehran, which some analysis say led to the current conflict. Reports indicate that Iranian negotiators eventually straight up refused to speak with either of them. Period. Like what you said, led to JD Vance. That's what led to JD Vance. You're right. And I hadn't even read this part yet. So you were right when you said that they requested JD Vance because they did. I have it here with a completely different piece of paper that you're looking at here. That Iran has just basically said that they're fucking done with these two idiots, like done with them. And so they're there still as the chief negotiators, but JD Vance was requested specifically by the Iranians for this stuff. And also his perceived bias, which isn't perceived. He has very, very, very close ties with Benjamin Netanyahu, like really close ties with Benjamin. It's like they're boys. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, if you're a negotiator that's representing Iran and you know that you're talking to somebody who's boys with Benjamin Netanyahu, I don't think you're going to get a fucking really good deal. I don't think you're going to get any honesty or truthfulness, or it's even worth your fucking time showing up at all, period, the end. Like, why would you even, you know what I mean? How is that even worth your time at all? Now, and remember, really quick, so those are those guys' backgrounds. I mean, like, remember what I said about the background of what it takes to be like an international war negotiator. It is an extensive background, which requires language fluency, specialized additional trainings, like core degrees in international relations, international law, peace and conflict studies, and Harvard and Columbia's program specifically on negotiation that Kushner never took, even though he was there. Cultural intelligence, strategic thinking, stamina and emotional intelligence, reputation and status, all the education, everything that goes along with that. I mean, these guys just don't fit the bill, bro. They don't fit the bill.
Well,
And if I
and
was Iran, I wouldn't want to talk to either one of these fucking pieces of shit at all. Like, I would absolutely be asking to talk. I wouldn't want to talk to Trump either. JD Vance, I guess, is probably the best option you had, like you said.
right. Well, and I think it's kind of funny too that I had a hard time finding there was 4 negotiators that you see publicly walking off a plane for Iran going into the Pakistan negotiations. I had a hard time finding their names, but this is just a Google search. So if I'm wrong, somebody feel free to correct me. Um, it says they got a multi-domain group that they all hold PhDs. Um, from
These are Iran,
personal
right? This is just Iran,
finance.
right, bro?
Yeah, this is Iran's negotiators at the last. Yes, this is just Iran's negotiators. A multi-domain group, all have PhDs. They're in finance, military, legal sectors, and sanctions and security and international law. So these are people who have probably been doctored to be the negotiators and were probably backups to the more qualified negotiators who we killed. So these are
Yeah,
they're backups of the
repeatedly.
fucking backups, and they
This is
are
a C
more
team.
qualified.
It's the C team. Yeah, we killed the varsity and the junior varsity. Like, we have the C team left. That's what we have left that we're negotiating with. Do me a favor really quick as I'm speaking this. Look up. I think I've been reading a lot that Iran has a very, very high literacy rate. Like, that the Iranian people, we have this perception of Iranian people of just being like dirt people. When I was in Iraq, and I'm ashamed to say this, okay, I was a young man. In war you label people that are your enemy. And in Iraq, in Afghanistan, we call them hajis, call them dirt people, like sand, other words. Like, we had no respect for the humans in that entire region at all. And I've been reading that the Iranian population is actually very, very, very highly educated, like very
So
highly educated.
let me give you some backup and just some comparison to the United States. And this might uh, maybe this is what happens when you don't spend fucking $3 trillion, $2 trillion on war, and you put some money back into education and
Joe, what are
stuff
you
like
talking
this.
about, dude? If Iran stopped putting all their money towards the military, they would have a society. Like, what are you talking about? I mean,
I know.
they told us that. He said it on like CNN. How could we not believe it? Meanwhile, they only spend $10
and
billion
two, just
a year on their defense.
and just to digress, I do think there's big problems with college, and I do think there are useless degrees unless you plan on getting your doctorates and becoming a professor or a lawyer or something like that. I'm not saying that you have to be educated. Trades are just as important as education. Like, this isn't a, but this thing that college educated people who've studied centuries, millennia of history and politics and how things have gone are stupider than some businessman in that field of negotiating politics and stuff. Like, that's like I really dislike college and how expensive it is, and I feel a lot of kids waste their time. But there's also, like, fucking read a book. Like, understand what you're talking about before you want to go and argue something.
What it speaks to for the Iranian, just the state, is that they actually endorse the institution of education. That's what it speaks to. So, like, regardless of whether or not, college education, there'll be a lot of people that listen to this are like, fuck college degrees. Who gives a fuck about a college diploma? And that's fine. Like, you can feel that way. It's fine. You can feel whatever way you want. You can go marry a giraffe for all I care. But, like this does speak to the state itself, the Iranian state. They do have a commitment to education, and that is important because there is a massive misconception out there, especially with the American populace, that they're just dumb, dirty Muslims. I mean, that's really how they're seen. They're just dumb, dirty Muslims. That's how most like white Anglo American Christian. That's the listen. I've lived with this shit I spot in the war for fucking over 10 years, man. You don't have to like it, but that's exactly what it is. That's the fucking truth. And so, what do you got? What do you got?
All right, so Iran has Iran has achieved near universal literacy at 99% of the people between the ages of let's wait, correct. Universal youth literacy. So 99% of the people between the ages of 15 and 24 are able to read. And there's been a lot of talk about how they treat their women and stuff, and it is much different than an American or a non-Muslim country, but that's not just Iran. Muslims, that's just they have a much different lifestyle than us. And there also are Muslim countries that don't treat their women, who are very much more open with how their women could be, and they could wear dresses. And there's also Muslim countries where women have to have their face covered. It's a vast, so trying to pin one and say the other, or trying to pin them all as the same. Each country kind of treats it a little bit differently, but there's been a lot of talk about how they treat their women, and we're freeing them from the oppressor. And that number is rapidly closing the gender gap, particularly in STEM. So that's where women, their STEM, so 90 or 70% of the women that graduate from their STEM programs, or 70% of the people that graduate from their STEM programs are women. So their women are coming out with a better education in the science, engineering,
Wait a minute, Joel.
mathematics
Joel,
programs.
Joel, 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 Joel. Are you telling me that Iran has educated their women?
Yep.
Is that what you're telling me right now? Oh, okay. Just there to save all the women, Joel. I thought we had to save all the sand Latinas that are in Iran.
It's you know, yeah. Well, because never. I'm going to stay on track. While Iran's adult literacy is approximately 85 to 89%, the U.S. maintains a higher overall literacy rate, and that's not a surprise. We do learn how to read here at a small country.
I don't see that. I'm looking at our literacy rate at being 79% of adults right now, based on what I looked up.
Let me see.
But
one of these sources is from the government, so that could be just something trying to wash the
yeah,
stats.
so this is from the National Literacy Institute. And so I was gonna like, I'll let you finish what the Iran part is, but I wanted to do a comparison with the United States because we are not at all shit hot on education at all. And Iran is probably, in a lot of ways, doing a lot better in education than we are. And we just look at them as being dirty, gross Muslim sand people that don't know anything. Like that's how we view them.
Well, I think this goes back to, I mean, the perspective of how we were forced to see them for such a long time, and just like the white and brown thing. You know, I think most people, if they saw somebody from Israel who was a Jew who didn't have a yarmulke on, they would think that they were fucking Muslim because they'd be
European?
dark skinned. Yeah, they would. Yeah, exactly. And that's the you know, and I mean, racism's such a touchy topic, but like there is a group of people who just aren't going to like you as much because you're brown. And then add something that's other than Christianity to that mix, and it's just more reason to hate somebody. Yeah.
It's Muslim. I mean, like we have a really, we've been for decades just spoon-fed anti-Islam Muslim propaganda, and 80% of what we're told about everything from Sharia law to how they treat their women and everything else is bullshit. We're fucking lied to on purpose. And most of Americans have never gone over there or talked to anybody from the fucking Middle East ever. And so here we got, so that was what Joel said with by Iran, which is highly literate, highly educated, and at the very least, and here's the thing too, that's not even talking about college degrees, bros. That's just literacy. That's kids being able to fucking read a book. Like, can you open a book and read the motherfucker? Can you do that? Right? Iranians can do that at a very, very, very high rate. Men and women, people. We always talk about how Iranian women are so, repressed and all this other stuff. And maybe they are in certain aspects, but they're very also allowed to be very educated. That's the difference between Iran and the Taliban in Afghanistan. It's not all the same fucking thing, right? It's not all the same thing. That's what we talked about. Like, Al-Qaeda didn't like Saddam Hussein in Iraq. Iraq was not a godly country. It was a monotheistic country, and they didn't get along with him because of it. We have this weird misconception in the United States that Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iran, Israel, not Israel, fucking Iraq, Syria, Yemen, all these places are just the same. There's no difference between them. They're the same people, the same cultures, the same religion, the same languages. It's like none of that stuff's true. Like, like none of it's true. It's crazy. And so, as of 2004 to 2005, approximately 79% of U.S. adults were considered literate. This is according to the National Literacy Institute in the United States. While 21%, about 43 million total, possess low English literacy skills, often termed functional literacy. Over half, around 54% of adults, read, below the 6th grade level. 54% of American adults lead below the 6th grade level, and the U.S. ranks 36th in global literacy.
I read further when I was talking about 99% literacy, and they were talking at what they consider a level that is appropriate to live. So it wasn't saying, it didn't give an actual grade qualification. So
yeah, that makes sense. I mean, dude, we rank 36 globally, literacy. Globally. I wonder when Iran ranks. I'm going to look that up here in a second. But it's like, dude, 54% of adults have a below 6th grade reading level, bro? And we rank 36 in literacy. I mean, I just think the more that you learn, bro, the more you learn. And Iran may not even be as literate as the United States. But here's the thing. Like, we look at Iran like they're just dirt. Like I said, they're just dirt people. Like uneducated, hyper religious people that don't care about education, don't care about women, don't care about kids' rights, all this stuff. And it's like that's not the case maybe it's the case in like Yemen, but it's also like a lot of those other states are also failed states, man. Like Iraq right now is basically a failed state. Afghanistan was close to being a failed state. Yemen is a failed state. Somalia, like a failed state. A lot of these places that we get involved in and we bomb and put huge sanctions and stuff on, they become failed states, like on purpose.
They're right about in the middle of the pack. So we're out of 200 countries, there are 100, is what they said.
So we're 36, they're like 100. But either way, I mean, we take a lot of pride in who we are here. And I mean, dude, half the American public doesn't even read as good as a 6th grader, bro. It's pretty rough.
And I think that goes, I mean, I do not necessarily like the public education system and how it's been in place. I think there's a lot of failures in that system, but it goes back to the divide we have within our education system, like, and the haves and have nots. A lot of the like school voucher systems sound good in theory, but when you like look at how they're done in like Texas and stuff, like the people so a voucher system essentially is saying the state's going to give you money so you could put your kid into a private school, but they're going to give you money so you don't have to find it. And what happens is they're not going to pay for all of it. So they give you a voucher for a percentage of it. And all that did is the people who can't afford private school can't afford private school. That's not going to change. So all it did is all the people who are almost, I think it was about 85% of the vouchers in Texas in their first few years of doing this went to families who are already in private school. There was only a 20% increase in vouchers going, like new kids enrolling into private school. So essentially all you're doing is pulling that pool of money out of the public school system and you're giving it to rich people who are just taking advantage of it, who are already paying full price. And not saying that there's not some parents that sacrifice a lot for their kids so they can go to a private school or do something like that. And some of those parents probably did get helped. But the reality is you didn't change education system. You just pulled more money out of the public education system and put it into the private system, you know? And
Yep.
I'll never blame a parent for trying to get their kid the best education, but the fact of the matter with most private schools are also spreading ideology. So you have like a Christian based private school that is spreading a lot of Christian learnings and ideology along with their other classes, and then you say you have a Montessori based public school that's more liberal based, and they're doing the same thing. So these kids, not only both of those places offer a better education for your kid, but they're also indoctrinating them at a young age with ideologies. So it's creating this bigger gap of these highly educated people who are so far on either spectrum, and that's something I wish in public school. um you can't control it in private school because it is private, but just ideologies on either side. And that's when we talk about like church and state, some of the touchier topics like transgender, how those are brought up in school. And I think all those things right now is why our school system is so fucked up, because parents are so more
Oh yeah.
worried about the social aspects versus the education. And what really makes a change is parents being there at school board meetings and not letting the school board
Micro
run the
politics on the micro
education.
level, bro.
Yeah.
Yep, getting involved on the micro level, bro. That's what's important. You know what I'm really pumped about when it comes about education? Like I'm real excited about is cutting school vouchers for lunches and shit so we can have so we can fight this war with Iran. So we can get that $1.5 trillion budget. Remember all that budget shit we went over? Like not the last episode, the episode before it was I had two and a half fucking pages of all those cuts they're gonna make, and there's so many school. I'm just really glad that I can be part of a society that's gonna cut funding for kids to be able to eat at school so we can keep warring. It seems like a way better priority, plus cutting all that funding to the ranchers and farmers and small business loans and like entrepreneurship and all that stuff. Like fuck those motherfuckers.
Well,
Like
and
gives a shit about
I'm not
ranchers and farmers.
the and this is some of the thing that I hate, because I don't believe how we've done government ran systems, whether it's been the public education, some of our tax systems. I don't agree with how they're run, but in principle I agree with them.
Uh-huh.
And
Yep.
when you the the Republicans consistently hate anything government run, and I understand the idea of small government, and I think in certain places that is great. And certain regulations kill certain sectors. Like I understand all that, but also like they want to ruin anything that the government runs. So defunding it just works better for their idea, saying like, okay, look how shitty this is. Let's defund it even more, make it even more shittier. So eventually we could privatize all these things, because that's a big Republican move, is to privatize everything. And I'm not against privatization and like some of that stuff, but also show me proof, like I said before, when things have been privatized, when it's turned out good for the people who are underneath the CEOs and the leaders of those things. Rarely in history does privatize anything, um, outside of some of the state-ran mental health facilities. What was a real big shit show that we decided to like kind of step back from and privatize, and there was a big backlash to that as well. So that's a hit or miss topic. There's not a lot of things that we privatize. Prisons, I could go down the list that they turn out bad because the people at the top are corrupt and want money. They don't want to help their
Oh yeah.
employees. They don't want to help the
Yeah.
people they're trying to help.
Privatization basically means that there's an wild amount of money on the top, right? And like if anything,
Right.
depending on who the owner is and the CEO and like all that stuff and how they actually divide funds up, like the one benefit you could get from that basically as a regular citizen is you could make more money, but you'll have a hell of a lot less benefits, like retirement,
Right.
health care, dental care, stuff for your family, leave, things like that. Like you might make a little bit more money being private, but you're going to lose out on a shit ton of bennies. And those bennies are pretty goddamn important when you have a family. It's really fucking important, but that is kind of the trade-off. And so before we get into the U.S. announcement blockade on the Strait of Hormuz, we're not going to be able to watch the Lego video, but I'm going to play a Lego video, bro. I'm going to play a Lego video. So Iran just put out this deal. So President Donald Trump announced on Sunday that the U.S. will begin blockading all ships entering or leaving the Strait of Hormuz, ordering the United States Navy to interdict vessels and warning that any ship paying Iranian transit fees will be stopped. Quote, no one who pays an illegal toll will have safe passage, end quote. Trump said Iran knowingly failed to keep the strait open and may have placed mines, we all know where they place mines, and declared the U.S. will, quote, begin destroying mines, end quote, adding that, quote, any Iranian who fires at us will be blown to hell, in all caps, unquote. And here was the Iranian response to that. Gotta love these Lego. Dude, if you're out there and you have not watched one of these Iranian Lego videos, you're not doing yourself any favors.
They failed it to torch. Now they want to blockade the strait. You run the block. Already run the muscle. Say that blockade, go ahead, try your luck. You better come close, keep running. What the fuck? Talks fell apart, now you screaming blockade, but we already control the flow. We set the rate. Every ship pays toll a phase away from the gate. You threaten to stop us? Boy, you're way too late. Gas prices rising. Your allies in panic mode while we sit back laughing. Y'all digging your own hole. You talk real, but your Navy stays far ahead of our mines and missiles. That's who you are. You run the block. Go ahead, try your luck. You scared to come close, keep running. What the fuck? What happened to boots on the ground? Where's the invasion? You talk so tough, now you're hiding in hesitation. You break the seats, then ran back. The threat couldn't handle the table, so you're making new plans. What's the waiting for the boot? You promised, said, come on, Daddy, bring him, we'll give you the welcome you deserve in the end. Keep bluffing, keep running, playing and pretend. Hormuz is ours, you just can't. Sacred defense, we control the flow. Boots on the ground, we're still waiting, bro. Yeah.
Dude, there's a couple things. Did that come out okay? Could you hear that okay?
Yeah.
I
That's
hope
good.
so. There's a couple things I want to talk about with that video. First of all, why are we losing the war, the talking shit war? Like we got all these we got some badass comedians, we got some badass AI people in this country. We're losing the shit out of the shit talking war. Like Iran is decimating us, dude. They're coming up with like 2 of these Lego videos a week or more. Like every single time that Trump comes up with something ridiculous, they're coming out with one of these videos. And it's like, how are we not at least winning the shit talking aspect of this? Like, I feel like they're kicking our ass all over the goddamn place, talking shit. Those videos,
I mean,
are crazy.
I think if one thing, Iran's PR team should get a raise. I think some of that whatever the $20 billion budget for their army a year, I think one of their PR team needs about $1 million of that because yeah. And it's funny too because like if you're not stuck in this America news optic like go look at Iran's Twitter. They are constantly fucking trolling us and making us look stupid. And it's because like
Dude, they're
Trump
clowning
changes
the
his
shit out
mind
of us.
every other day on, yeah, it's hilarious. And I also think too, because what are you gonna say as a comedian? Like, one, you're gonna lose a bunch of people who follow you if you're like, let's clown Iran in this war. Like, we're the fucking clowns. That's why we're getting clowned. Like, we got the fucking big red nose on right
That's
now
so true. That's why
and
all the
fucking
comedians
orange.
have like. That's why the Theo Vaughn's getting on. Yeah, that's why Theo Vaughn's getting on Joe Rogan and being like, "Fuck this. We're the terrorists. Israel's the terrorists." Like, but you're seeing this all over the place right now.
Yeah.
And obviously, if you want to compare body counts, we have killed. We did this thing a few episodes ago, right? Like Iran's responsible around 5,000-6,000 deaths basically since 9/11 ish. We're well over a million of people we've killed. Like Iran isn't even a blip on the radar compared to how many people we've killed in the region. It's not even freaking close.
And not that it makes it any better, but Iran's doing it almost mostly with proxies. Their army hasn't, up until this war and
Yep,
October
you're right.
7th, has not really. And was October 7th
Even October
Hamas, or
7th
was
was
that?
Hamas. It was still
Yeah, that's what
Hamas.
I thought. So, yeah, so
Still proxy.
like these are American tomahawks that are either Israel bought from us or we're dropping on these other countries. These aren't, and who knows how many deaths were tied to if you counted all the terrorist groups that we funded and all the CIA ops we've done outside of war or outside of actual war and dropping bombs.
A lot of installing dictators. You know, another thing, remember we were talking about where I said that like we've said that like Iran's like invade. Fucking invade. Like send in your boys. Invade, do it. They've been asking about. Dude, for those of you that listened to the video, did you catch that part, Joel, at the end? Like the last 30 seconds, they were basically clowning us, being like, how come you haven't invaded? Why aren't you doing a ground invasion? You've been talking about invading, you're not doing it. He's like, they literally are calling us chicken shit because we're not invading. You know what I'm saying? It's like, dude, that takes some brass, bro. Like it takes some stones. If you're actually worried about being invaded, to be antagonizing the United States and Israel with these videos and these Lego videos and rap songs. And then in this one, right after the freaking, failed negotiation with our super duper negotiators that are businessmen, real estate moguls who have zero actual international relations negotiating fucking experience at all. They're really good people to put our kids' hands in. And they're talking shit about how we're not going to do a ground invasion. Listen, I gotta respect the shit talking, man. That's some mad shit talking coming out of Iran. There just is. Like way, way, way more than we. You know what I'm wondering about, Joel? So Trump's saying that he's putting destroyers and stuff outside of the Strait of Hormuz because they're gonna blow everybody to hell, right? That pays the $2 million tax and like does all this stuff. Do you think they're gonna blow up the Chinese vessels? Do you think they're going to do the same thing? Do you think they're going to fuck with a single Chinese either warship or energy ship at all?
No, Iran's called his bluff every fucking time. When he was threatening to end their civilization in a day, Iran came out and said like, yeah, let's watch it happen. Like he's called their bluff every single time. And either this is Trump waiting for us to print out more fucking tomahawks and missiles and he's going to do a huge bombing campaign, or this is just going to go on and go on and go on. I mean, and I think also this part of it's the same. There's already people in Trump's team who are talking about the stocks because they did a big dip, and everyone's saying like, "Oh, we think this is over. Buy low. You need to buy low because the bubble's low now because people are not listening to Trump, so everything dipped, and now they're doing the same thing because there's been 4 days of peace talks and a ceasefire, and I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we see this happen 5 or 6 more times before midterms, like it's just a never never-ending grab for his people in power, and meanwhile the
It's like a
military
giant
machine,
game,
the
dude.
military-industrial complex, yeah, it's fucking, it's nuts, man.
It's like a big game of fucking Monopoly, dude.
We're,
That's what it is. It's like a big giant game of Monopoly,
and it's
except with people's
and it's
lives. Because there's a lot of people dying in Iran and Lebanon and all these places. And so the Iranian Speaker of Parliament, whose name is Mohammed Banger Jalabaf, literally said this about the Iranian peace talks to Americans, pretty much addressed us. Quote, enjoy the current pump figures. With the so-called blockade that Trump enacted, soon you'll be nostalgic for $4 to $5 a gallon gasoline. This is exactly what we voted for, Joel. I don't know about you, but I'm
well,
really into
and
this
what
shit.
happens when
I hope I want it to suck fucking more.
what happens when gas goes up? Everything goes up, you know, especially like we felt a fluctuation more expensive, but it hasn't taken that big jump yet. And if we get to that, you know, $5 a gallon average, you know, like that's when we're going to start seeing our prices that never went down, and some places have gone up even more, are going to start going up even more.
Remember Sean U. Daly, he talked about what's going on in Ireland, and Ireland's got like all these farmers and ranchers, I guess mainly farmers, that are running their tractors like up into Belfast and some other areas, like pretty much protesting the cost of fuel and like other kinds of stuff. And like, it's like I said, we're just a little bit over 30 days into this bitch. And so I'm just gonna glaze over something before I get into something that I think is more important. So U.S. military members have a crisis of conscience. I don't think we necessarily need to go into that. There's been more defecting in the military now than there has been at any time that it's really been recorded. Just a shit ton of early retirees, people that are like declining to reenlist. The reenlistment numbers are way down, and people are retiring early. And honestly, and this is kind of telling, one of the counselors said that was dealing with these people basically cited the bombing of the Iranian elementary school that killed about 200 schoolgirls, parents, and teachers, and basically said that there was a lot of soldiers, sailors, and Marines and airmen that like literally distinctly pointed to that specific instance is why they were not willing to engage in this anymore. Like just that one specific instance. What I thought that was pretty interesting. The United Nations says Iran could drive around 32 million Muslims or people in that area into poverty, into forced relocation. Going to be massive immigration problems. And then, okay, here we go. Lebanon. Israel escalates double tap strikes on rescue crews in Lebanon, killing Red Cross paramedics. So we talk about Lebanon. Lebanon's forgotten about. Lebanon's the reason why the war is going to kick back up, because Israel refused to honor the ceasefire in Lebanon, which was the original agreement. If you're out there and you do not think that Lebanon was part of the ceasefire agreement, you're fucking wrong. Okay, Lebanon was part of the ceasefire agreement with the United States and Iran, that Lebanon would no longer be bombed. And Israel wiped their ass with that within 10 minutes and started bombing it, which shut the Strait of Hormuz, which led right to Trump's blockade and all this other bullshit we're dealing with right now. We can just go ahead and thank our strongest allies, Israel. Okay. So the death toll from Israel's assault on Lebanon. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I just want to remind people real quick, Lebanon doesn't have a fucking army. They have a small terrorist sect who is like their freedom fighter. So essentially, they're bombing an armyless country who has no way to fucking fight back. And if anybody was going to fight back for Lebanon, like, I just, it's fucking stupid.
Which is also why you have Christians and Muslim civilians from both denominations that are telling the people that are interviewing them that they stand behind Hezbollah. Because Hezbollah, like we talked about this analogy before, right? If the fucking Crips are attacking you, Do you give a shit if blood is defending your family? It doesn't fucking matter to you if a blood is defending your family, as long as they're defending your family and your property and your home and your outcomes. You don't give a shit who it is as long as they're stacking bodies on your behalf. I mean, if you're getting attacked by the Crips, you don't give a shit who's protecting you as long as they're protecting you. And that's what Hezbollah is right now to the people in Lebanon. And Lebanon is wildly, wildly Christian. We said this before. Hey, Christians out there, Christians, hello, Christians. Jesus walked in Lebanon. Jesus has roots in Lebanon. Tons of roots in Lebanon. Some of the oldest, there's the biggest, literally the biggest megalithic stone cuts from ancient history are in Lebanon, in Baalbek. Baalbek. Some of the coolest history, world history that the entire human race has to offer is in Lebanon. Some of the most giant cut megaliths ever are in Lebanon.
What do they call that 20 ton
Obelisk?
there's a name for this. Yeah, the biggest stone it's on its side. It's in Lebanon. It's the biggest.
I want to say it's bigger than 20 tons. I think it's bigger than 20 tons. Hold on really quick. I need to find that because I think it's bigger than 20 tons, but I'm not positive. So 1,650 tons.
Okay, way off.
It's 20 meters. It's 20 meters.
20.
So
maybe that was what I was thinking about.
Yeah, so Baalbek is in Lebanon. Lebanon has got some ancient history, people, some real serious ancient history, linked to the flood, linked to Jesus, linked to way before that, if you believe in the Nephilim or the Anunnaki, or like the UAP theories of religion and all this other kinds of stuff, and just the real precise monolithic structures that were built probably around the Ice Age. Before that, Lebanon has got literally the biggest goddamn cut piece of stone on planet Earth lying on its side. They never actually got to use it. They cut it out of the earth and it's lying there. But dude, Lebanon has got some just unbelievable, crazy, giant megalithic work. And Israel fucking bombed some of these archaeological sites, bro. They bombed them. They bombed as a guy who's a PhD history dude like me. Like, this makes me want to jump out of my asshole. Like, I can't fucking believe this shit. It pisses me off a lot that they were bombing historical archaeological sites that go back that predate Jesus by 5 to 10,000 years, maybe. I mean, crazy stuff, dude.
It's not Muslim country either. It's a Muslim and Christian nation, and that's like the whole. It's just like Christianity and in the United States, and like how there's different sects of, like, you have a Jesus Christian who's more loving, and then you have like a Christian nationalist who's fucking Pete Hegseth and his whole clan and worse. They get worse. And it's like with I don't think a lot of people understand, like, in the Muslim religion, most sects of it see Jesus as this really profound prophet, and they speak highly of him.
Prophet.
And
dude,
then where in the
Jewish, he's a prophet in the Quran.
Yeah. And they speak highly of him. He's not like when you go to the Zionists, they believe that Jesus should be burning in a pit of excrement and feces in hell, and that's like they're spitting on Christians walking down their street, and it's no different than, and with that being said, there are plenty of Jews who are against this war and against that thinking, but like, we're told a certain way, the certain things of how to look at this.
We're always talking about Israel in this country, not necessarily like the Jewish faith. It's always the state. It's the governance of the state that we talk shit about in this. And that's everybody. That's Tucker Carlson. That's Megyn Kelly. That's what we're doing. That's like, if you're talking about like the Young Turks, I mean, Joe Rogan, even now, Theo Vaughn, like a lot of people, man, they're just talking about the state, and so to go back into Lebanon. So this shit's been going on a month, right? And remember, we talked about Iran killed 40,000 of their own people in a week. Bullshit. There's so many international human rights organizations now coming out saying that that's absolute nonsense. So Lebanon's been getting hammered. And as of right now, they have 2,055 deaths right now. Okay, according to Lebanon's health ministry. That figure also includes around 200 kids. Okay, around 200 kids. There's something about Israel and killing kids. And they're really, really getting big on the double strike attacks. So double strike attacks or hits or whatever you want to call them, they go back a ways. And I know we talked about this before. A double strike attack is basically like you bomb an area and you hit insurgents or the enemy or whatever you want to call them, and you kill a certain number of them. And then some of their people will come in and backfill, right? They'll come backfill and they'll either try to help out their buddies medically or try to just pull them out of the area or whatever it is. And then you do a secondary hit on the exact same spot, and that's called a double tap. All right. A lot of people might see this like if the old war movies from like World War II, Vietnam, where you'd have a sniper who'd shoot somebody, wound them, intentionally just wound them, shoot them in the leg, shoot them in the stomach, someplace where they could stay alive for a long time but not be able to move, and lie there and basically beg for help. And then as their buddies would come out because they just couldn't stand hearing their friend screaming in agony out there, probably getting shot up a little bit more, like putting a few more rounds in their legs, their arms, whatever. And they'd wait for their friends to come out and try to drag them to safety. And as friends would come out, try to drag them to safety, what would they do? They'd smoke their fucking friend. They came out to drag him to safety, and they'd leave that guy out there screaming. That's kind of like a double tap too, kind of the same kind of thing. Well, Israel's doing this shit to Red Cross employees, vehicles, and reporters. They've killed a shit ton of reporters in Lebanon. They obviously killed like, it was like 200 and something in Gaza, journalists that they killed. They've been killing a shit ton of journalists in Lebanon as well. And so Israeli forces carried out a surge of strikes targeting first responders across Lebanon over the weekend, including a direct drone attack Sunday on a Lebanese Red Cross unit conducting a humanitarian mission on a road, killing multiple paramedics and wounding others. According to Lebanon's Red Cross, at least three double tap strikes, in which a second strike hit rescuers responding to the initial attack, were reported Friday night and two more on Saturday. The offices of the Lebanese Red Cross in Tyre were also hit by a drone strike on Monday, according to their officials. The strike killed and wounded people being transported in Red Cross vehicles. Thus far, in the last month, at least 87 medical workers have been killed, not wounded, killed in the last month. 87. And that's not even necessarily just with these double tap strikes. They're just all together. We went over what war crimes are, right? We went over what the international war crimes stuff is with the Geneva Convention. I cannot understand how this shit is still allowed to just continue. It's been going on for 5 years.
I mean, I'm looking for a video that the Netanyahu is talking about, like normalizing bombing buses with civilians in schools and stuff. And I'm trying to find it because when you hear him say it, you know, like it's just like, how are we letting this tiny little country get away with all this shit? And he talks about like a cause that's great. So a cause that's so great, and the people who believe in it, it's so great that like the normalizing of bombing schools and buses with civilians. These aren't soldiers they're carrying off a fucking battlefield. These are buildings that they're clearing people out of, women, children, young men, you know, and then they're waiting for them to drop other bombs on them. This isn't like a big battlefield where they're carrying guys out on a stretcher and they're doing triage stuff. This is like triage in a city where there's bombs being dropped and they're waiting for them to come help and bomb them. And it's so fucking crazy to me that not only
it's terrible, man. We're taking a book right out of Gaza, dude.
But,
and we're doing the same ourselves in Iran right now. You know, like we know about the school that killed all those little schoolgirls and teachers and parents. But we've hit like 300 schools, dude, in Iran and universities, just straight up for the exact same reason that we say that Israel is hitting all. When they carpet bomb Gaza, is because Hamas was under everything, right? Hamas is under every single house, every single apartment building, every single hospital, every single school, every single institutional building, every single library, every single mechanic shop, every single gym that somebody goes to work out in, every single bank, every single freaking restaurant, right, has Hamas underneath it. And that's what they're doing right now in Lebanon. They're saying the exact same thing and they're doing the exact same thing. And what scares me is the American military is starting to do it too with our bombing campaigns in Iran. We're starting to kind of mimic in a lot of ways, it feels to me, what the Israelis were doing in Gaza. And so that actually brings me to kind of back to Gaza, because Gaza is kind of forgotten about in a lot of ways, if you think about it. And it's unfortunate. It shouldn't be forgotten about because there's still a hell of a lot of stuff going on in Gaza. We just don't know about it because we're not freaking talking about it. We're just pretty much talking about Iran. It's just like kind of Lebanon. Lebanon's kind of forgotten about because it's Iran, nuclear weapons, peace talks. Are we going to invade the Strait of Hormuz, oil prices, energy prices? Like everybody's just forgetting about the human decimation that's taking place in Lebanon and Gaza still. And so over the last 24 hours, just in Gaza, there's been a lot of Palestinians killed in Israeli strikes across Gaza. And literally, the total recorded death toll since October 7th, 2023 has risen to 72,333. Okay. Since the October 11th attack, right now, a total of 72,333 Palestinians have been killed since that. All right. Since October 11th, which was the first full day of the so-called ceasefire, you know how many Palestinians they've killed since October 11th, bro? Just since October freaking 11th, which was the ceasefire. I think I said before when I said October, I meant the October 7th. Total killed 72,333 since the October 7th attack. But so October 11th ceasefire, do you have any idea how many, like just a shot in the dark of how many Palestinians have been killed since the ceasefire, bro? Since the ceasefire.
I would say 10 to 20,000. I have no idea.
Not that many. 754 since October. Since the October 11th ceasefire.
I'm thinking, yeah, I was thinking since the last wrong October, bro.
No worries, dude. So since the October 11th ceasefire, which is November, December, January, February, March. So 5 months. It's been 5 months, right? They've killed 754 Palestinians in Gaza in the last 5 months. Okay. And so this gal, I'm going to play this little recording. No, go ahead, man.
I found the video of him talking about like bombing civilians and stuff, and this is coming from Oliver. This is coming from an Oliver Stone documentary, and this is BB talking. This is what I was talking about earlier in the podcast.
The best thing of killing or being full of innocent civilians, you have to drive it into their minds. You have to wash their brains and tell them there's a higher cause out there. It's religious, ethnic, racial. And for that higher cause, you can disregard all the normal rules of morality. To get somebody,
You know, that's BB talking right there, and that's like the whole what unfortunately has become really normalized in this conflict. There's a lot of other countries that would have been charged for war crimes. Bibi has been under investigation by his own government for the last fucking like 4 years, but they've been at war, so they can't continue. It's something that I'm sure. I mean, there's a lot of people in Israel who don't want Bibi in power, and I've seen numbers
Oh
as
yeah, a
high
lot.
as 60% that were anti the bombing of Gaza. They're still pro like Jerusalem being is like they're still pro Israel, but they're not pro Gaza. They're not pro blanket bombing Iran, and that's the whole thing. And he's
It's like you
been
said, the difference between
and
the Israeli state and the Jewish people, right? The
yeah.
Jewish people as a whole, in a lot of ways, and there's a lot of that support it for sure, but there is a lot that come out and they're wildly against it, wildly against it. And I'm not surprised at all hearing Netanyahu talk like that. And I did hear that video, I think, a couple days ago, and it's not surprising to me at all. It's like boiling a frog, right? Or whatever. Like you put it in there, slow boil it with a bunch of water, and he'll just stay in there. You throw him into a pot of boiling water, people are going to start getting pissed off really quick. But it's like a slow boil. Like we've literally spent years and years and years getting conditioned to just massive amounts of civilian casualties and people coming up perpetually for years with excuses why, yeah, it's okay to kill 20,000 kids. You can kill 20,000 kids, I guess. Like, okay, that's, well, Israel was attacked on October 7th, so they can kill 20,000 kids, and then you have all the lies
Well,
about like babies being put in ovens, right? Remember all that stuff? Those are all fucking lies. There is no babies put in ovens. Like, it was bad enough as it is. Like October 7th was bad enough as it is without having to lie about it and make it worse through lies. Because the only thing you do with that is you devalue your own side and your own arguments, because eventually those lies and all that stuff is going to come out. And when it does, you're going to look like a fucking asshole. And that's what's happening right now. They look like assholes, big time. And the entire international community is turning a blind eye to these people. And they're basically being like, we're done with the Israeli state. Our allies, their allies. And now they're talking about bombing Turkey, and Turkey's talking about, like, Turkey's finally coming out and basically saying, fuck Israel. Like, Israel's an enemy. We don't want to have anything to do with them. They've kind of just let Israel talk shit about them for a while. And now Turkey's kind of finally coming out and coming out with some statements basically saying, like, condemning Israel and their actions. Because as far as
well,
Israel's
and
concerned, like, Turkey's next on the list.
and with this, like Trump's been threatening NATO during this whole time because our allies aren't really. They're just saying like, nope, you kicked the hornet's nest. This is up to you. And I wouldn't be surprised like some of this like translating to because Turkey's a NATO country of us pulling out of fucking NATO
Well, not a
and
NATO.
then
Yep.
going and attacking Turkey to prolong and um, accelerate the Israel project or the greater Israel project, And that's what like this isn't our fucking war. This isn't our agenda, but um, the ramifications that this one little war with Iran could have globally. Like if we drop out of NATO, like things are gonna fall pretty fast with like new alignments and other things, and it's tracking that way. And I don't agree with the NATO relationship. I think there's ways that we could maintain that relationship and not spend as much money. I think there's a bunch of stuff within that realm. I'm not saying the NATO relationship has been great for America. We spend a lot of money there, but I also think just turning our back on allies that we've had for decades and decades and decades and decades is unless you're trying to start a whole new world order where America's not going to be first, um, I don't know why you'd be in full support of it, you know?
I'll tell you what, man. If we end up going, and the United States, like, we are still a democratic republic based on voting and law and equal protection, even though it does, like, we're moving away from it quick. But dude, I mean, is it really possible for us as a country to go from, let's just say, this Iranian ceasefire, everything's going to fire back up here pretty quick, and we do a ground invasion and we fight Iran. It's like, are we really going to fight Turkey too? Like, I can't. I mean, the American people right now have no support for the Iran war. I don't give a shit what Trump says or what he thinks his polls say or what CNN says or anything else. Like, there's bullshit support for this. It's like there would be way less support even from this than like to invade Turkey. You know what I mean? Like a NATO state. It's crazy to me to think that we're living in a weird, dude. This timeline is wild, man. And I mean, like, listen, we all know that Biden had like Alzheimer's, dementia, late stage dementia, just he was being handled. What the fuck is going on with Trump? I mean, if you're a conservative out there and you're on the right and you had really serious questions about Biden's cognitive abilities to be able to lead this country, I think at this point you need to start asking those same questions about Donald Trump. Because you take a look, we haven't even talked about his fucking Jesus tweet yet. We're an hour and 40 minutes into this bitch, and we haven't even talked about the fact that he tweeted himself as Jesus Christ. And then he took it down
right after,
like pretty quick afterwards.
well,
And
it
then he
was right
said that
after
he thought that he was a doctor. Did you see that?
Yeah, well, and
They interviewed him
that,
about
like,
it.
yeah, no, he's losing his fucking marbles, and just like the optics of what's going on, like he's got his vice president and 2 real estate agents negotiating a war, and he's going to a fucking UFC fight with our Secretary of State in the middle of like war negotiations, you know? And I have no problem with the president who wants to go to a fucking baseball game and hear the crowd roar and do all that shit, but like, not when we're at fucking war. When our country's running good, you know, just like the ballroom, you know, and the big
At
argument
least
is
13
like,
Americans.
yeah, and it's just like we're suffering and you're rebuilding the fucking White House and putting gold shit all everywhere. Like that's fucking horrible on optics. Like, don't spend anything on your fucking. You tell us to go and like it's just going to be hard. You got to buckle down and not spend as much money and just plan for hard times, you know, while you're fucking renovating the White House because you want more gold shit in it, because you have such a tiny ego that you have to put your stamp on everything you've ruined. And that's what bothers it with me is like, this is rich people oligarchy shit.
You know, they're putting a big nuke.
Yeah. Yeah. Which
That's
there's
kind of
already a
freaky.
nuclear bunker there. They're making another bunker. Yeah. It's really fucked up.
A more up-to-date bunker. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so this, I'm going to play this little video and then I just think it's worth it. And, you know, we'll probably talk about it for a minute and then call it for the evening. But this gal, I know you're not going to see it, but this gal, she witnessed 10 Palestinian children, like around the age of 5, that were decapitated. 10. They had their heads cut off, clean off. And she's at this hospital during these attacks while they're still attacking Lebanon. This is like last weekend, just like yesterday. And she is, dude, you'll be able to hear it. You can't see it, but you'll be able to hear it in her voice. She is wildly distraught over everything she's witnessing. She's sitting outside of a hospital. There's ambulance after ambulance after private vehicle after private vehicle showing up at this hospital with bodies of loved ones and family and friends trying to get them to be worked on because they're just getting slaughtered by the Israelis. And here's this reporter after she witnessed 10 Palestinian children, 5-year-old kids with their fucking heads completely severed from their body.
Just ended. What does the situation on the ground look like now?
Well, I am standing in Shuhada Al-Aqsa Hospital, which is located in Deir al-Balah in southern Gaza. And this is where basically the Israeli military asked Gazans to evacuate. And what we are witnessing right now is whole families, children, women arriving to the hospitals. The Israeli warplanes attacked, airstriked a home that belonged to Abu Jbara family located in Deir al-Balah in southern Gaza. We saw whole families. I myself saw children, at least 10 children under the age of 5 with their heads cut off, their bodies. If you can see around me, we can still see the ambulances arriving to the Shuhada al-Aqsa hospital, mostly women, mostly children. I mean, this is undescribable. This is like a massacre. The number that was published from the Palestinian Health Ministry is that the death toll here in Gaza is up to 2,215 Palestinians. But me standing right here in the hospital, I can clearly tell you that the number is going up every hour. More injuries arrive to the hospital. Here is an ambulance full of children. I can see the children where I'm standing. The situation is undescribable. Whole families, children under the rubble, children being killed. I have never witnessed anything like that. I've been covering escalations on Gaza for years now. And what we're witnessing right now is whole massacre.
Dude, like, when you watch that video, you can see what she's seeing a little bit. And I mean, you can just tell by the way that she's talking. And she's been covering this conflict for years down there. And she is completely distraught. Like, she has no idea even how to cover this, what to say. She's holding herself from completely breaking down. I mean, you can tell she's shaking. Like, she's just holding it together for as long as it takes her to get this 2-minute report out. You know what I mean? It's fucking heartbreaking to me, dude. Like, on a human level, I just can't.
If you can't listen to that shit and not like have it like wrench at your fucking soul, you have something wrong with you. Like, hearing her talk about the kids and like she had to stop talking about the decapitated kids because she was like gonna fucking lose it. Like, it's like it got me misty eyed. You know, this is like the humanity part of like we're fighting a fucking holy war where we're justifying the decapitation of children, and it's by a government who's leading us into this holy war so somehow we could satisfy a Christian holy war. Like, it's so fucking bonkers to me that like there's no God, Christian, Muslim that would want any of this shit to fucking happen right now. You know, like that's I don't know, man. Like, when it comes to the kids, dude, that's fucking hard to swallow. That's so fucking hard to swallow.
It really is, man. They're the most innocent among us. And unfortunately, we're part of an expedition right now that's, a war, ethnic cleansing, genocide, total lack of humanity, institutionalism. Like, we're part of this and we're funding it, and we're just as culpable, if not more culpable, than the Israelis are, as far as I'm concerned, because we're the reason they're allowed to do this, while the entire international community, literally the entire world outside of the United States and Israel, is getting to the point to where they're finally starting to take some action, and we're not, and I did 10 years of war thinking that we were the good guys, like fighting, thinking we were the good guys. Like, I just don't think I feel that way anymore. I'm really starting to agree a lot more with like Dave Smith and some of these other guys when they talk about, like, who are the real terrorists, and it's really inflammatory to the American public to hear that, because most of the American public just refuses to accept reality everywhere else. And it's like, if you're living in Oak Creek, Colorado, or, fucking Boise, Idaho, or wherever, like, to think that you can relate to what these people are going through and experiencing while you go to your Christian service every Sunday and then live your normal life for 6 days a week after that, and, like, think that you can relate to what, Christians in Lebanon are dealing with, getting killed by the thousands for just living there. Same thing with the people in Gaza. While we're just continuously supplying arms and weapon systems and money and training and also public support for what they're doing. And it's not just Republicans, it's all Democrats too. It's both sides of the aisle that support this. And like, I'm kind of feeling a call in a way to really call out our empire, and what we're supporting here, because I mean, I got 5 kids, and I mean, if I lived in that region, how would I not join the IRA? You know what I mean?
Right.
How would I not be one of those kids that joined Hezbollah or Hamas? Like, I mean, you got to be realistic. You got to be honest with yourself. It's like most people haven't seen that kind of death and destruction and trauma. And when you do, like, you never come back from it. Ever. Ever. It's a terrible thing, dude. It's a really, really sad thing to continuously see, and to continuously see our empire support it, And I really think it's going to lead to our demise, you know? And it's not just our economic demise, it's our moral demise. Like, we are, as a people, as a society, as a culture, as Americans, as members of the United States of this experiment, like, we're failing. We're failing as humans.
And
That's what we're doing.
and we're getting fucking gaslit by our fucking government as it happens, just to like, I mean, this all goes back to the fucking Epstein thing. Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell are the only fuckers sitting in prison, or Epstein is no longer in prison, and Ghislaine Maxwell is sitting in prison. And they're the only
Club
people who
Fed.
got arrested in the biggest international fucking sex sting, and then we're letting this government, Republicans and Democrat both, just keep doing the same fucking circle, and we're going to act like this never fucking happened. Like, and this is there goes back to like the why it makes me so angry, because these are fucking kids. You do something like that to a kid, like, you took something away from them that they're never gonna fucking get back. Like, it's fucking, and we're just sitting here standing pat, like, oh, we know our government's fucked up. It's just something we got to deal with. There's nothing we could do about it, And it's, to me, it's like, people ask me why I care, or how much time I spend into this stuff. I do about 2 hours of research a day, and not just research, reading news articles and stuff, but I care about it because these are fucking children, and these decisions affect things outside of myself. Like, there's women who are getting pulled away from their 4-year-old kids because they're immigrants. They're separating their kids and like women in like different prisons. Like, I don't fucking agree with every immigrant being here, but I do agree with treating people with humanity, especially if they're not fucking violent criminals. And this affects, things like,
Yep.
my parents have retirement and work their asses off to live the dream, and they still rely on programs to help them, like Medicaid and stuff like that, And like, these are things that like may no longer exist when we're fucking 70, And if you don't have a military pension, if you're a 1099 guy and you're not saving for retirement, what happens when you're fucking 80 and you can't pay your bills anymore? You rely on Medicaid. You rely on these programs, and it's really easily to be like, the programs suck, it's fucked up. It is. That's true, because we let it get fucked up, because we let these fucking rich, it's not a Republican, it's not a Democrat thing. It's the elites are fucking us, and they've been doing it since, I mean, really the Clinton administration on. And there's been things that
Yep.
fell in the Reagan administration and Bush's administration. But like, and we need to quit turning this into a left and right thing. Like we're losing our morality as a country because we want to fight each other, and each side wants to lay on their morals, when we all want the same thing. We want our kids to go to school. We want to be able to have some sort of affordable healthcare system. Like we want the same things in this country, and we need to start just fucking loving each other. Like the politicians aren't here to do anything good for us, and until we rebuild the system, we're going to continue to get fucked.
Yep. And hey, Social Security wouldn't be fucking bankrupt if we weren't $40 trillion in debt from all this bullshit. It's like if you're 80 years old and need Medicaid and some Social Security because you ran out of your retirement, like, yeah, you paid into it. You should fucking have it. Like, I don't give a shit if it's a government program. You paid into it. The government fucking owes you that money back. They don't owe it to Ukraine or Israel or any of these other fucking places and to do endless fucking warfare. They owe you your Social Security because you paid into it. That's what they fucking owe. That's what they're supposed to be taking care of. Cutting goddamn school lunch programs and assistance for farmers and ranchers and small businesses so they can get another $500 billion in their war budget to fight this war. It's not what this fucking country's about. It's not what we were built on. It's not what we fucking voted for. It's not what we fucking agreed on. It's not what we fucking fought for, we bled for ever. It's complete bullshit. And I'll just say, like, I'll kind of end it with this, man. One man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. One man's terrorist is another man's fucking freedom fighter. And we're seeing that now more than ever. So,
man.
I love you, buddy. You got anything else?
No, I'm good, brother.
All right, man. Love you till next time, man.
Love you, brother. Signing off.